Liam Carter had lived on the quiet edge of Willow Creek Ranch for as long as anyone could remember. His days were simple, honest, and filled with routines that rarely changed. He fed the cattle at sunrise, checked the fences before noon, and walked the open fields in the evenings to make sure nothing strange had happened on the land. Most days felt the same, and he liked it that way. Life on a ranch gave a person a sense of peace, a feeling that the world moved at its own slow pace. But that peace broke the moment he heard someone calling for help. It happened just as the sun dipped behind the western hills. The sky was turning a soft orange, the kind that stretched across the open plains and made everything look warm and calm. Liam had just finished washing his hands near the water pump when he heard a sharp, shaky voice coming from the old barn behind the cattle yard. He paused, confused. No one was supposed to be back there this late in the day. At first, he thought he had imagined it, but then he heard it again, louder this time, filled with panic. "I can't hold it anymore. Just finish it." The words were clear, desperate, and full of something he couldn't name. His heart thumped, and he dropped the towel he was holding. He looked around to see if anyone else had heard it, but the ranch was quiet. Only the wind moved through the tall grass, brushing the ground like a whisper. Without thinking twice, he sprinted toward the barn. His boots hit the ground hard, raising dust with every step. As he got closer, he noticed a shape near the barn entrance. A person crouched down, shoulders shaking, hands gripping the sides of their head. When he got near enough to see who it was, he stopped cold. It was Emily Ward. Emily wasn't just any neighbor. She was the daughter of the late Robert Ward, the man who used to own the land next to Liam's family ranch. Robert had passed away months earlier after a long illness, leaving Emily to run the ranch alone. She was strong, hard-working, and quiet. People in town admired her, but they also sensed she carried a heavy weight on her shoulders. Liam had seen her from a distance many times, taking hay to the fields, fixing old fences, or carrying supplies from her truck like she was trying to prove she could handle everything alone. But the girl crouched before him didn't look strong. She looked exhausted, terrified, and completely broken. "Emily," he said carefully, taking a step closer. "What's going on? What happened?" She turned her head slowly, and when he saw her face, his stomach tightened. Her cheeks were streaked with dirt. Her eyes were red from crying, and she breathed in short, shaky gasps, as if she had been running for miles. "Liam," she whispered, barely able to speak. I can't hold it anymore." She repeated the same words, but her voice cracked this time. Tears formed in her eyes again. Liam knelt beside her, keeping his voice low and calm. "Emily, look at me. What can't you hold? Did something happen?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward the barn, toward the heavy wooden doors that were halfway open. The inside was dark, completely black, as if the evening sunlight refused to enter. "It's inside," she said. "I can't do it anymore. Please, just finish it." The same strange phrase again. Finish it. The kind of words that made a person think the worst, even when they didn't want to. Liam felt a chill move through his spine. He didn't want to assume anything, but her words, her shaking hands, and the dread in her voice made him fear something terrible was waiting just beyond those doors. He took a slow breath, steadying himself before he asked the next question. "Emily, is someone hurt in there?" She squeezed her eyes shut and shook her head, not fast or panicked, but slow and filled with sorrow. "No, not someone. Something." Liam felt a small wave of relief that it wasn't a person, but it didn't ease the tension completely. Something could mean anything. An animal, a dangerous tool, a problem that had gotten out of hand. On a ranch, problems were rarely small. They grew fast, and they grew heavy. "Tell me," he said gently, "what am I going to find inside?" Emily swallowed hard. Her lips trembled, and for a moment, she looked like she couldn't speak, like she was fighting with herself, trying to decide whether to tell him or make him discover it on his own. Finally, she whispered, "I tried my best. I really did. For weeks, I've been trying. But I can't anymore. I'm not strong enough. I don't know what to do." Her voice shook with every word. She wasn't just afraid. She was overwhelmed, carrying something that had been building for a long time. Liam stood slowly and offered her his hand. "You don't have to handle this alone, Emily. Whatever it is, I'm here now. Just tell me what happened." She didn't take his hand, but she used her own to push herself upright. She stood unsteadily, nearly falling forward, and he instinctively stepped closer to steady her. Her breath hitched, but she managed to stand. Then she nodded toward the barn again. "Go inside," she said softly. "Please. You'll understand." Liam looked into her eyes one more time, searching for any clue, any hint that might prepare him for what he was about to face. But all he saw was pain, not physical pain, but the deep emotional kind that came from struggling too long, from carrying something heavier than one person should. He walked toward the barn with slow, careful steps. The evening light faded behind him, making the inside look even darker. The air felt different near the entrance still, heavy, almost thick with silence. He pushed the door open a little wider. The hinges creaked loudly, the sound echoing through the empty space. Emily stood behind him, her hands clasped tightly in front of her chest. She looked like she was holding her breath. When Liam stepped inside, his eyes took a moment to adjust from the warm outside light to the dim barn interior. Shadows filled the corners. Old tools hung from wooden beams, and stacks of hay created narrow pathways across the floor. The smell of dust and old wood filled the air. At first, he didn't see anything unusual. But then, he heard it, a soft, strained sound coming from the back of the barn. A low, tired, muffled noise. He followed the sound, stepping around the hay bales and old barrels. The barn felt larger on the inside than it looked from the outside. Every step made his heart beat harder. Emily hovered near the entrance but didn't come any closer. She stood there with her arms wrapped around herself, watching him anxiously. As Liam got closer to the sound, he could see something shaped like a large figure lying inside one of the old stalls. When he reached it, he finally understood. And when he understood, everything clicked, the fear in Emily's voice, the exhaustion on her face, the desperate words she had shouted. It was a horse, a very old, very weak horse. Its breathing was shallow, each inhale slow, each exhale strained. It lay on its side, eyes half open, body trembling slightly as it tried to lift its head, but couldn't anymore. Liam felt his chest tighten. He recognized the horse immediately. It was the same one Robert Ward used to ride every morning before he got sick. The old stallion Emily's father had loved more than anything on the ranch. The horse had been strong once, fast, loyal, calm, and gentle. Everyone in town had seen Robert riding it during fairs, parades, or quiet rides along the river. Seeing the animal like this, weak, tired, barely holding on, was heartbreaking. But what hurt even more was realizing Emily had probably been caring for it alone for weeks. She must have known it was getting worse. She must have tried everything she could. But she didn't want anyone to see it like this. Because seeing it this way meant facing the truth that something precious, something loved, was reaching its final moments. Liam stood still, breathing slowly as he took in the scene. The air felt heavier here. The sadness seemed to settle on his shoulders, making the room feel smaller. He turned his head toward Emily. She was still near the entrance, watching him with wide, tired eyes. She looked frozen in place, like a person afraid to step forward, but even more afraid to walk away. Liam walked toward her slowly. When he reached her, he spoke softly, gently, with all the calm he could gather. "Emily, why didn't you call me earlier?" Her lips trembled again. She shook her head. "I didn't want anyone to see," she whispered. "This was my dad's horse. His favorite. I didn't want people to think I couldn't take care of it. I didn't want anyone to say I failed. I tried feeding him special food. I tried everything I could. But nothing worked. He kept getting weaker. And today, he couldn't stand it all." She took a shaky breath and covered her mouth with her hand. "I've been sitting with him for hours. I tried lifting his head so he could drink water, but I can't do it anymore. I don't know what to do. That's why I said what I said. Not something bad. I just meant I can't handle this alone." Liam felt a deep ache in his chest. Her words weren't dramatic, they were honest. She wasn't asking him to do anything wrong. She just needed help with something emotional. Something heavy. Something she had been facing alone for far too long. He put a gentle hand on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. She didn't even look up. She just stood there, quiet and trembling. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're not alone now." Emily closed her eyes, and a long tear rolled down her cheek. She had been holding in her fear, her sadness, her struggle. Now, finally, she wasn't holding it alone. Liam didn't know how everything would unfold next. But he knew one thing clearly. Part of the weight Emily had been carrying for weeks had finally begun to lift, because she had finally spoken the words she had been too scared to say. And he had heard them. Liam stood in the dim barn, letting the silence stretch for a moment. The horse's shallow breathing was the only sound besides the soft creak of the wooden beams above. He took a slow breath and turned to Emily, who still looked frozen near the entrance. Her hands were clenched together, knuckles white from the tension, and her body trembled slightly with the effort of holding herself upright. He could see how worn out she was, how much weight she had been carrying alone for weeks, maybe months. He crouched down beside the horse, placing a steady hand on its side. The animal's coat was dusty, and its muscles were thinner than they had been in years. Liam could feel the faint tremors running through it with every heartbeat. This horse had been a proud animal once, a friend and companion. And now it lay here, fragile and weak. Liam swallowed hard and tried to remain calm. He knew Emily needed him to be steady, to be rational. She wasn't ready for panic. She needed support. "I know this is hard," he said gently, keeping his voice calm. "I understand why you didn't tell anyone sooner. You were trying to protect him, and you were trying to protect yourself too." Emily's eyes filled with tears again. She shook her head slowly, biting her lip. "I didn't want anyone to see. I didn't want anyone to think I failed him. Or my dad," she whispered. Her voice was raw, full of sorrow. "He was all I had left of my father, and now, I can't even save him." Liam stayed silent, letting her speak, letting her release the emotions she had been holding in. He had seen people carry burdens before, but this was different. This was private grief, bound up in love, loyalty, and the sense of responsibility she felt toward her father's memory. It wasn't about strength or skill. It was about heart. And Emily's heart had been stretched to its limit. He reached out again to the horse, stroking its dusty mane gently. "It's not your fault," he said softly. "You've done everything you could. You've been a good friend to him. That counts for everything." Emily took a step closer, still hesitant, but her eyes were locked on Liam. "But he's suffering. I can see it. Every time I look at him. I don't want him in pain, but I don't know what to do. I can't just leave him like this. I can't just leave him." Liam nodded, understanding immediately. That's what she meant when she said, "Just finish it." She didn't mean anything harmful. She meant she needed someone to help her do what was kind and necessary. She couldn't make the decision on her own. The weight of it was too much. "It's okay," he said again. "We'll figure it out together. You're not alone anymore." Her lips trembled, and she let out a shaky breath. For the first time in a long while, she didn't try to be strong or hide her emotions. She allowed herself to lean slightly on Liam, trusting that he would understand. Liam looked around the barn. The evening light was almost gone, leaving the room in a soft shadow. He realized that what they were dealing with wasn't just a physical challenge. It was emotional. It was about love, loss, and the difficulty of letting go of something cherished. He needed to approach this gently, carefully, and with patience. "Emily," he said softly, "the horse is old. He's lived a full life. He's given you so much, and now he's trying to tell you he's tired. We need to respect that. I think the kindest thing we can do is call the vet. They'll know what to do to make sure he's comfortable." Emily's eyes widened, and she shook her head slightly. I can't do that. I can't make that call. What if it's too soon? What if there's still hope?" Liam shook his head gently. "You've done everything you could. You've given him every chance to recover. Sometimes, love means knowing when to let go. The vet will help him peacefully. He won't be in pain anymore, and we'll do it together." She hesitated, biting her lip. "But I don't know if I can watch." "You won't have to be alone," Liam said. "I'll be with you the entire time. You're not facing this by yourself." Emily's hands clutched at her chest, and she let out a long breath she hadn't realized she had been holding. She nodded slowly, her lips pressed together. Okay. I trust you." Relief washed over Liam, but he kept his tone steady. "Good. Let's get some blankets and water. We'll make him comfortable while we wait for the vet. That way, he won't feel scared." Together, they moved slowly through the barn, arranging soft straw and blankets in the stall. Liam helped Emily brush the horse gently with a soft cloth, removing dust and dirt that had collected over weeks. The animal shivered slightly under their hands, but it didn't try to move. It was tired, but it seemed to sense that they were there for care, not fear. As they worked quietly, Emily began to speak again, this time about memories. "He was my father's favorite," she said softly, voice trembling. "Dad would take him every morning, even when he was sick. He would ride for hours sometimes, just enjoying the fields. I remember once he raced him across the creek and laughed so hard he almost fell off. That's how I remember him best. Laughing, happy, riding." Liam listened carefully, nodding. "Those memories are precious. And the horse gave you that. You've been protecting that memory all this time." Emily's eyes filled with tears again. "I've been trying to be strong. I thought if I could take care of him, I could take care of everything my dad left behind. But now, I don't know if I can." "You can," Liam said gently. "You just need help sometimes. That's not weakness. That's being human." The evening passed slowly, the barn quiet except for the occasional soft breath of the horse. Emily and Liam sat on the straw, side by side, talking softly, sharing memories of her father, of the ranch, and of the horse. It was a quiet, almost sacred time, a time of reflection, connection, and preparation for the hard decision ahead. Finally, Liam reached for his phone. He spoke calmly to the vet, explaining the situation. The vet listened carefully, asked a few questions, and promised to come as soon as possible. Liam hung up and looked at Emily. "They're on their way. We'll handle this together." "Too." She nodded, her shoulders trembling. She rested her head on her hands, trying to process the emotions rushing through her. Relief, fear, grief, and love, all tangled together. She had carried so much alone, and now she didn't have to anymore. Liam kept a hand on her back, steady and supportive. "It's okay," he said again. "Everything's going to be okay. We'll make sure he's peaceful and comfortable." Emily closed her eyes, letting herself finally cry, knowing she wasn't judged, knowing she wasn't alone. She realized that asking for help didn't make her weak. It made her brave. The barn grew darker as the last light faded, but inside, there was a strange warmth. The warmth of understanding, of compassion, and of shared responsibility. Liam and Emily sat quietly, the horse between them, feeling the bond of trust, love, and empathy. Even in the face of sorrow, there was hope, because they were together. Hours passed slowly. Emily told stories of her father and the horse, laughing softly through tears. Liam listened patiently, reminding her that her father's memory lived on in every story, in every corner of the ranch, and in the love she still carried. She realized that letting go of the horse wouldn't erase those memories. It would honor them. When the sound of the approaching vet finally echoed through the barn, Emily and Liam felt ready. Not completely ready, perhaps, but emotionally prepared to do what was necessary. They had faced the fear, the sadness, and the burden together. That connection gave Emily strength she hadn't known she had. And so, they waited together, ready to face the next step in the journey of love, loss, and healing. The sound of the vet's truck pulling into the driveway echoed across the quiet ranch. Liam stepped outside briefly, feeling the cool evening air on his face. The sky had darkened completely, stars twinkling faintly above. It was peaceful, calm, and yet inside, Liam felt the tension of the moment pressing on him. He turned to Emily, who stood at the barn entrance, her arms folded tightly across her chest. She looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of the past days had pressed her down. Her eyes were red from crying, and she seemed to be holding herself together by sheer will. Liam walked back inside and gestured toward her. "It's time," he said gently. "They're here to help. We'll make sure he's comfortable. You don't have to do this alone." Emily nodded slowly. Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her eyes said everything. She trusted him, and she was ready to face the hardest part of this long, emotional day. The barn doors creaked again as the vet stepped inside, a kind-faced woman carrying a small bag of supplies. Her presence was calm, professional, and reassuring. She immediately looked at the horse, her eyes gentle and understanding. "I understand," she said softly. "You've been caring for him for a long time. Let's make sure we do this in the most peaceful way possible." Liam gestured toward Emily, who took a step forward, hesitating just a moment before placing her hand lightly on the horse's side. The animal shivered slightly at the touch, but the familiarity of her presence seemed to soothe it. Emily's tears fell freely now, and Liam stayed close, resting a supportive hand on her back. The vet spoke softly to Emily, explaining everything in a calm, compassionate voice. "He's old, and he's been struggling for a while. He's in pain that he can't show you fully, but it's there. What we can do is help him pass peacefully. He won't feel pain, and he won't be alone." Emily nodded slowly, swallowing hard. I want him to be comfortable," she whispered. I don't want him to suffer, and I don't want to fail him or my dad." "You're not failing him," the vet said gently. "You've given him love, care, and attention. That's more than anyone could ask for. This is the kindest thing you can do now." Emily took a deep, shaky breath. She knelt beside the horse, brushing its mane gently with her fingers. She whispered softly, telling it stories of her father, of their life together on the ranch, and of the mornings they had spent riding through the fields. Liam knelt beside her, speaking quietly too, reassuring her and keeping her calm. His presence was steady, grounding. Emily leaned slightly into him, drawing strength from his support. The vet prepared the injection, her movements slow and careful. She checked the horse's pulse, its breathing, and its eyes. Everything was done with compassion, with the understanding that this wasn't just a medical procedure. It was an emotional moment, a farewell, a last act of love. Emily reached out, resting her head lightly against the horse's neck. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "You're tired now. It's okay. You can rest. You've been strong. And I love you." The horse shifted slightly under her hand, its old muscles relaxing in response to the care and love surrounding it. Liam held Emily's other hand gently, rubbing her back as she cried softly. This was a moment of release, a moment of connection, a moment of healing. The grief was real, deep, and heavy. But it was shared now. And that made it bearable. The vet gave a quiet signal, and Liam felt Emily's fingers tighten around his. She nodded, trusting him to help her through this. The horse took a few slow breaths, then settled calmly. Its struggle was over, but the presence of love and care surrounded it until the very end. Emily whispered a final, soft goodbye, and Liam felt her release a long-held tension, the weight of weeks of worry and sorrow finally beginning to ease. After a few moments, the horse was still. Liam stayed kneeling beside Emily, holding her steady. She was sobbing now, but there was a sense of relief woven through the sadness. The barn was quiet except for their soft breaths. It was a sacred silence, a space where grief and love existed together, where the pain of loss mingled with the beauty of compassion. Emily stayed close to the horse for a long time, whispering memories, soft words, and gentle reassurances. Liam spoke softly too, reminding her of her father, the strength she had shown, and the love that remained in every corner of the ranch. He didn't rush her. He let her mourn, let her remember, and let her begin to heal. Finally, when Emily was ready, Liam helped her rise. She leaned on him slightly, her body still trembling, but her eyes held a new clarity. The horse's presence had left the barn, but the memory, the love, and the lessons it had shared remained. Liam and Emily worked together to prepare a small resting place behind the barn. A quiet corner where the horse would be laid to rest. They chose the spot carefully, near the old fence where her father used to walk each morning, and beneath the oak tree that had stood there for decades. Emily spoke softly as they worked, sharing stories of her father, of the horse, and of the happy mornings they had spent together. Liam listened, contributing gently, helping her remember the joy as well as the sorrow. By the time the horse was gently laid to rest, the night had fully fallen. Stars glittered above the ranch, casting a soft light over the small grave. Liam and Emily stood quietly, hands intertwined, feeling the deep, human connection that had carried them through the day. "You did good," Liam said softly. "You gave him love until the very end. That's all anyone could ask for." Emily nodded slowly, tears still falling but a small, faint smile breaking through. I know. I wish my dad could have seen this. I wish he could have been here." "He's here," Liam said gently. "In the memories you carry, in the love you've given, in the care you showed. That's how he's still with us." Emily leaned into him, drawing comfort from his words. The night was quiet, peaceful, and full of reflection. They stayed together for a long time, remembering the past and thinking about the future. Liam reminded her that grief takes time, that healing isn't instant, but sharing the burden makes it lighter. As they finally walked back toward the barn, Emily paused, looking at the spot where the horse rested. "I think he knows we loved him," she whispered, "and that we tried. We really tried." "I know he does," Liam said softly. "And now it's time for us to carry those memories forward. Your dad's love, his lessons, the happiness you shared with him and the horse, it all stays with you." Emily nodded, feeling a sense of closure that she hadn't known she could have. The weight of the past weeks began to lift, replaced by a quiet strength. She realized that asking for help, trusting someone, and facing the hardest moments didn't make her weak, it made her brave. She had faced her fear, shared her burden, and honored her father's memory in the kindest way possible. Back inside the barn, they cleaned up, ensuring everything was in order. Liam helped Emily brush off the remaining straw, put tools back in their places, and sweep the floor. Every movement was careful, respectful, and calming. The barn felt different now, not heavy with grief, but lighter, infused with care, love, and remembrance. It had become a place of reflection and peace. As the night grew deeper, Liam and Emily stepped outside together. The ranch stretched around them, quiet and still. The stars above twinkled softly, a gentle reminder of life, love, and continuity. Emily breathed deeply, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of calm. She had faced the hardest moment of her life, with courage, compassion, and support. She had been brave enough to ask for help, and in doing so, had found strength she hadn't realized she had. Liam looked at her, seeing the subtle change in her posture, the faint light returning to her eyes. "You're going to be okay," he said softly. "It won't be easy, and it will take time, but you're strong. You've proven that today." Emily smiled faintly, a small, genuine smile that reached her eyes. I think I can be. Thanks to you, Liam. I couldn't have done this alone." He smiled back, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. "You won't ever have to be alone when it matters. You've got people who care about you. And I'll always be here." They stood there for a few moments, gazing at the peaceful ranch under the starlit sky. The past day had been filled with fear, grief, and tension. But it had also brought connection, compassion, and courage. Emily felt lighter, her burden shared, her heart a little stronger. Liam felt proud not for himself, but for the quiet bravery Emily had shown. Together, they had faced the hardest part, and together, they had begun the process of healing. The ranch was quiet once more, filled with the soft sounds of the night. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted, and a gentle breeze rustled through the grass. Emily and Liam knew that life would continue, with challenges ahead. But they also knew that love, support, and courage could help them face anything. And for the first time in days, Emily felt a spark of hope, a quiet, enduring hope that would carry her forward. The next morning, the ranch felt different. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink, and the air smelled fresh with dew and earth. Liam was up early, walking the fields as he often did, but today he moved more slowly, letting the quiet settle over him. Everything felt heavier and lighter at the same time. The weight of yesterday still lingered, but there was also a strange sense of calm, a feeling that some things had been put right. Emily came out of her small house behind the barn, carrying a mug of coffee. Her eyes were tired, but calmer than they had been the night before. She had spent hours after the horse was laid to rest, arranging a small area with flowers, remembering her father and the animal that had been his pride. The quiet ritual had given her a sense of closure she hadn't thought possible. Liam noticed the faint smile on her face as she approached. "Morning," she said softly, holding out the mug. Liam took it, grateful for the warmth. He nodded, not needing many words. They didn't speak much at first, just stood together in the early light, feeling the fresh air and the sense of peace that comes after facing something hard. After a while, Emily spoke, her voice steady but soft. "I can't believe how quickly rumors spread. Some of the neighbors already think something terrible happened in the barn last night." Liam frowned slightly. "I'm not surprised. People hear shouting and crying, and their imagination fills in the gaps. They don't know the truth. I guess it doesn't matter what really happened," she said, her eyes downcast. "People will believe what they want. But I know the truth, and that's what counts." Liam nodded. "Exactly. You've faced the reality, done what needed to be done, and honored your father's memory. That's more important than anyone's opinion." She smiled faintly at him, a mixture of gratitude and relief. "I don't know how I would have gotten through it without you." "You didn't have to," Liam said gently. "We faced it together. That's what matters." The morning passed slowly, with Emily and Liam going about the ranch chores. They worked side by side, repairing the fence along the back pasture, moving hay bales, and checking water troughs. Liam noticed that Emily moved differently now, not weaker, but lighter, as if some of the burden she had been carrying had finally been lifted. There was still sadness in her eyes, a shadow of grief, but it was tempered by strength and quiet determination. As they worked, neighbors started to arrive, curious about what had happened. Some had heard the shouting, others had seen the lights and assumed the worst. But when Emily began to explain, her voice calm and honest, the whispers softened. She told them the truth, that her father's old horse had been sick, that she had tried to care for him alone, and that Liam had helped her ensure the horse passed peacefully. People listened quietly, nodding in understanding. Some offered words of sympathy. Others simply stayed silent, respecting the private moment she had endured. Emily realized that sharing the truth, even with those who had spread rumors, gave her power over the situation. She didn't need to hide her grief or pretend everything was fine. She could be honest, and that honesty brought respect and support. By midday, Liam and Emily had finished the outdoor chores. They sat together on the porch, eating a simple lunch and watching the fields. The sunlight streamed across the grass, highlighting the wildflowers that had begun to bloom along the fence lines. Emily leaned back, taking a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. For the first time in days, she felt truly at peace. "I can't believe how much I've learned about myself this week," she said softly. "I didn't know I could carry all that grief and still find the strength to face it. And yet, I did." "You did," Liam agreed. "And you'll continue to. Strength isn't about never feeling fear or sadness. It's about moving forward even when you do." Emily nodded slowly, thinking about the horse, her father, and everything she had endured. I think he knew we loved him," she said, referring to the horse, "and that made all the difference." Liam smiled, a quiet warmth in his expression. "Love always makes a difference. You've shown that. And now you know that you don't have to face challenges alone." As the day went on, they walked the ranch together, checking on the other animals and making sure everything was in order. Each step felt lighter, as though the earth itself was helping them move forward. Emily noticed how Liam's presence gave her confidence, a reminder that support can come when you least expect it, and that life's challenges are easier when shared. By evening, they returned to the barn, where the small memorial for the horse awaited. Flowers had been arranged, a gentle circle of stones marked the spot, and the barn itself felt calmer, more peaceful. Emily knelt beside the resting place, brushing a soft hand over the ground. She whispered a quiet message to the horse, thanking him for the memories, for the lessons, and for the love they had shared. Liam stayed close, offering quiet support, sharing in the moment of reflection. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough. A steady reminder that some burdens are lighter when carried together. As the stars appeared above, Emily finally felt ready to let the day end. She stood slowly, brushing her hands on her jeans, and turned to Liam. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything." "You don't need to thank me," he replied. "You were brave, and you handled this with care and compassion. I just helped hold some of the weight." She smiled, a small, genuine smile, one that carried warmth and understanding. I think I'm ready to start moving forward. It won't be easy, and I'll miss him, but I'm ready." Liam nodded, feeling a quiet pride in her strength. "You'll be okay, and if you ever need support, you'll have it. You've learned that you don't have to face challenges alone. The night grew deeper, and the ranch settled into its quiet rhythm. Emily went inside her house, and Liam returned to his own home, both of them feeling the quiet satisfaction that comes from facing a hard truth and finding peace on the other side. They had endured grief, shared burdens, and discovered the strength that comes from compassion, love, and trust. Over the following weeks, life on the ranch returned to a steady rhythm. Emily continued to work the land, care for the remaining animals, and preserve the memory of her father and the horse she had loved so dearly. She carried herself with a quiet strength, a mix of grief and hope, sadness and resilience. People in town respected her honesty and courage, and she began to feel connected to the community again, knowing that asking for help is not weakness, it is strength. Liam and Emily continued to spend time together on the ranch, not just as neighbors, but as companions who had shared a profound experience. They repaired fences, fed the animals, and maintained the fields. But their connection went beyond chores. They shared stories, quiet conversations, and moments of reflection, understanding the importance of presence and support. Emily realized that life's challenges could be faced with courage when someone stands beside you, offering steady strength and care. One evening, as the sun set over the open fields, Emily stood quietly at the barn, gazing at the small memorial for the horse. Liam joined her, and together they watched the sky, sharing the calm and the quiet beauty of the land they both loved. She felt a sense of completion, a feeling that the past had been honored, and that the lessons of love, care, and courage would continue to guide her. "Life will go on," she said softly, her voice filled with a mixture of hope and reflection. "And I'll carry these memories with me. Always." "You will," Liam agreed, smiling gently. "And you'll carry the strength you've found here, as well. That will help you face whatever comes next." Emily nodded, feeling the truth of his words. She had faced the most difficult moments, embraced the grief, and found healing in the process. She had learned that love, care, and compassion are powerful forces, and that sharing the weight of life's burdens can bring unexpected strength. As the stars twinkled above and the night air settled over the ranch, Emily felt a quiet sense of peace. The horse had passed, her father's memory was honored, and she had discovered her own resilience. She understood that life is full of challenges, but with courage, love, and support, even the heaviest burdens can be faced and overcome. Liam stood beside her, offering steady presence and quiet reassurance. Together, they looked out over the fields, knowing that the future held challenges, but also hope, connection, and the strength to face them. And in that moment, Emily understood that grief, love, and courage are intertwined, and that facing the hardest moments can lead to the deepest understanding and the greatest growth.